Welcome to the Immigrant Education Collaborative Podcast. We hope you enjoy this interview. So welcome to another episode of the Immigrant Education Collaborative Podcast. Today I have a very special guest, a really dear friend of mine, Mauricio. How are you doing, Mauricio?
I am doing amazing, thank you.
Awesome, man. I'm so glad that you are doing this.
Yeah.
I'm excited, right?
Me too.
Yeah.
Ever since you put the word out there and wanted me to do that, I've been excited about it, but as we talked about, things getting in the way, but here we are.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I'm thrilled to have this. So Mauricio, the podcast is about the immigrant experience navigating the American education system, right? So I want you to just walk us through sort of like your personal story. Your parents are from Chile.
Yep.
Right? So talk to us about your experience as a child. What was your education experience like in America growing up?
Sure. Well, it starts in Chile. So I didn't move up here until I was 6. I turned 6 when we came up here. My brother's 5 years older than I am, so he was about 10, 11. And he had a much harder time, acclimating than I did. Being so young, my mind was pliable, and, going to school there, everything was completely different. Like, school here starts very early. Down there it starts midday, and you're there for 4 hours, and then you have the same teacher as you go through school. So if you graduate in 12th grade, you're graduating with the teacher you started with in kindergarten or first grade. She goes up and teaches everything. So you're not really moving classrooms. So that's like the biggest difference, coming over here, especially for my brother, that culture shock of having to go from class to class and make the changes there, or having different teachers for different subjects as well. We have to wear uniforms, and that wasn't a part of what we did here. So that was a little bit different, right? So we move forward a little bit. I'm here in the States, and I'm in 2nd grade. And I remember they tested me out. They're like, you should be in ESL, English as a Second Language. I said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And you're understanding it. Okay, do you really need to be in this thing? They didn't test me at all. Just by speaking to me there, they were like, okay, you're good. You don't need ESL. And I learned English by watching cartoons. Literally by watching cartoons, like especially Bugs Bunny. And so they would ask me something, I would just answer, and they were like, okay, so he got it really quick. Meanwhile, my brother got put in ESL, and he was being held back. And my brother is very, very bright. He makes me look stupid, like really. And I'm not that bright, but he really makes me feel stupid. I mean, this guy can do anything. It's amazing. But seeing him being held back was like, I don't know, you could see it affect his attitude and everything in his persona, and he didn't adapt to the English as well as I did either. So when we first moved, it was near Annandale area, Arlington area, and we went to the school system there, and then we ended up moving to Falls Church. So we didn't get to finish like that full year, a couple of months there, and then we moved to my uncle's house, finished the year there. That was a kind of a pivotal moment for me. So 2nd grade, I'm riding my cousin's 3-wheeler at the time, a Honda 3-wheeler, and I burned my leg. So I have to bandage it up, and when you pull that off, it's excruciating. My mom said, you're not going to school until this is healed. And 3 months later, go back to school, finish 2nd grade. They say, well, you failed 2nd grade. You missed way too much. So in hindsight, that was a really good thing that happened, because I wouldn't have met the people that I've met and gone through the experiences that I had I gone forward through the 3rd grade. So at this point, we moved to Fairfax, start the school year over. I'm in 2nd grade, and I meet my best friends. One friend that he was a really good friend in the 2nd grade, and I didn't see him for like another 15, 20 years when we were at a party. Whole other story. But he recognized me. He's like, Mauricio. I was like, oh my God, Tam? That's crazy. So Ralph, growing up with my buddy, he made it a lot easier for me because I had somebody to be there with me. I no longer had my brother there because he's, in a different school, and it was just a different thing. So I also had my cousins and a couple of other family members in the same neighborhood. So that helped out a lot. If my parents were home, I could go to my cousin's house, or I could go to my friend's house, Ralph, or he would come to my house. Skateboarded a lot throughout school. And unfortunately, that neighborhood that we grew up in was pretty rough neighborhood, pretty bad. I remember I was teaching a class one time, and a student asked me, where did you grow up? And I told him this place, Yorkville. And he was like, oh, that's the ghetto of Fairfax. So I was like, Fairfax doesn't have a ghetto. What are you talking about? He goes, no, look it up. There's like crime rates through the roof. Police won't even go into that area. I'm like, wow, well, I grew up there. And so there were a lot of fights growing up, a lot of fights. not necessarily with me, but with my brother or cousins and friends, and I'm defending people, so I had to learn how to fight. And I think that brought a lot of more confidence and control into what I did. And then going through the school, elementary school was very easy for me. Everything just kind of like, okay, this is boring. I'm done with it. What's next? And I thought it was a lot of fun. Looking back on it, it was definitely one of the best years, and everything is just so fun. But it taught me a lot of lessons, and really, because I was where I was, it was very diverse. So there weren't that many white people in my class. It was mainly immigrants, and all sorts of immigrants, and every race that you can imagine. A couple white people here and there, but for the most part, I felt like this school is my home. This is where I belong. And then I go to middle school, and that was completely different. It was like different areas are pulling in, and I think I had an easy time there too, because I was fairly bright. I didn't enjoy doing homework, but all my work that I had to do was very easy for me. They just gave it to me, like, okay, here it is, done. I loved art. I loved all that kind of stuff, but I was a kind of a little chubby kid. My nickname was Panda growing up. My uncle gave me that nickname, which I think is appropriate because I was a little chubster, but that helped me become who I was. So I'm about to get into middle school. I'm 12 years old. And then my mom just plants an idea. She was like, hey, I need to get fit. Can you help me out with some exercises? Just look something up. So from the time I was 12 years old, I'm reading magazines and how to make women fit. Because I'm looking at, okay, this is for my mom. This isn't for me. Meanwhile, I'm getting fit. I'm getting leaner, more flexible, all these things, because I'm doing the drills with her and showing her. And then that continues to me doing more things like breakdancing, capoeira as I'm going through school. And you can see, like, I loved school. It was great, but it was just like to pass the time, because I feel like I didn't get the knowledge that I should have gotten in this school system. Had I stayed in Chile, it would have been a little bit different, right? Everything is more defined, and you learn appropriate things for the appropriate ages, whereas here, you're not learning accounting or bookkeeping. How to learn is a huge thing. There are people that are just dumb because they don't know how to learn. They don't, all I have to do is read this thing 3 times, and you know what I mean? It's like, so repetitiveness and repeating the things, and I think it's all very helpful. So I learned a lot of lessons of don't let school get in the way of your education. So everything that I wanted to learn, it was up to me to learn it, right? If I'm going to do math or bookkeeping or anything, like, okay, can I ask the teacher? She's going to be limited. She's not going to have the time. So you go and do the research. So I would spend some time in the library doodling this, reading that, and before the internet and trying to find things. Now we have access to everything. Mm-hmm. So at this point, if you're not learning anything, that's on you. Everything is free. If I see, and I hate to get off subject here, but when I see somebody on the street and they're begging for money or anything, okay, that's your thing, I get it. If that was me, I would be in the library. It's completely free, and I'm learning a skill and maybe trying to adapt that and teach it in other ways. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of, for me, because of what my mom taught me, is that I was kind of a born teacher, kind of a born leader. People would just take to me. I can calm people down, and I can teach anybody pretty much anything. And it's just about teaching them how to do it their way. And the school system here, unfortunately, doesn't do it that way, right? It's like, and we'll get into the schooling part afterward, later, because I learned more about it. But it's pretty much regimented, like, okay, you just have to memorize this and pass this, and then you're good. But that's not good enough. And then they're also teaching to the slowest kid, not the smartest kid. So the smartest kids are being held back, and they're looked at now as bad because they're goofing off. They already learned everything, and they're getting reprimanded and yelled at. That's not right. So letting these kids grow up, and maybe they're really good at math, well, be good at math. Science, be good at science. And unfortunately, our schooling system doesn't allow that unless you're in a special school. Maybe a STEM school, which thankfully my daughter is in. And it's a great school. If it wasn't for this school, she would be in a whole different system, maybe homeschooling or some sort of democratic school. So let's go through high school. And high school was pretty much boring. I knew that I just have to get through this, get my classes, and get some easy grades. So easy grades for me meant language. So I signed up for French and Spanish. Being native Chilean, I don't think they should have let me be in the Spanish class. Yeah. But I got the easy A. Yeah. Right? So I go through 5 years of that alongside with French. And it's pretty much the exact same language, so very easy for me. I didn't like gym, which is odd. I just didn't like the changing, like the sports. Group sports for me were different, but individual sports are fun. I love the Olympics. Like watching soccer is great. I love it, and there's a lot of action, but it's still the group sport, right? One dude's failing, it's like, dude, what'd you do? Where if it's up to me, it's up to me, right? And I appreciate that a lot more. So I always stuck to more of like the individual sports, so skateboarding, breakdancing, capoeira, and then I got into gymnastics and handstands and all that stuff. So actually, before we can even get past that, I'm 13 years old, and I break my arm. And it wasn't doing anything cool. I was with my church youth group. We were about to go ice skating, which was across the street, and we're goofing around. 13, 14 years old, right? One of my friends pushes me, another one trips or kicks my foot. I fall and I hit a fire hydrant kind of like this on my arm. So I'm on the floor, I'm like, dang, that hurt. And I'm gym class, walk it off, right? So my don't fault. I put my hand on the floor, I go to get up, and that's when I break my arm. Ouch. So this is important because I was supposed to be in a cast for 1 month from here to here. And they were going to surgically break my arm, put some nuts and bolts or whatever in there, and then another cast from here to here for 6 months, and then from here to here for 3 months. So 10 months total in a cast. Meanwhile, I go see a holistic doctor. Again, being 13, I'm right at that prime of like, I'm absorbing all these different things. And I see one of my mom's friends, this Egyptian man. He looks at the x-ray and he was like, don't let them do the surgery. Let's cut that off right now, and you're going to start working your hand right away. It's going to suck, but you're going to let that bone heal like that, okay? It's going to grow, but if they put a plate on there, it's going to affect your growth plate. You're going to have a funny little bone. Arm's going to curl. You don't want that. But I promise you, after this is all over, you'll be doing handstands. So I was like, okay, cool. Didn't think anything of it, right? Cut forward, now I'm a handstand coach. So you're like, okay, that's kind of amazing. So he instilled that this could be stronger. Yes, it did break, but if I treat it the right way and I strengthen it, I can make it stronger than it was before. So again, it's one of those things I just laid down, and it's like, okay, it's in there. So now I go through high school. All the grades were fairly easy. Last grade was hard. Very, very hard, because I did not want to be there. I just didn't like the people. I didn't like the teachers. I thought all of the work was just, it's not for me. What are we doing here, right? Like, the math was just dumb. It's just, math was great until you started adding the letters in there. Like, okay, if I'm going to be like an architect, something like that, that makes sense. But that's not what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do when I was younger was be a pilot. So like be in the Air Force and fly a fighter jet. I thought that was amazing, right? So then I see Top Gun, I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Speed, that's amazing. I love that kind of stuff. And so it turns out I'm an adrenaline junkie. But unfortunately, I wasn't going to join the Army or the military. And I'm not willing to do that for, not say not willing, but I don't want to do it for Chile. I don't want to do it for the U.S. I'm not willing to risk my life for some other person's agenda.
Yeah.
So I'm not willing to put my neck out there. And I appreciate the people that do, but that is not for me. Mm-hmm. So I decided, okay, I'm not going to do that. Had fun with some cars. My dad is, he's a diesel mechanic, but he owns a tow truck company. So I learned how to work with cars when I was younger. It's fun. Get your hands dirty. It's fulfilling because you feel like you're doing a lot of work. But I didn't like it, that aspect. I like racing cars, and that was fun. But that's a whole other side. Adrenaline, yeah. Right? So with the schooling thing, it was just odd because, you know, when you don't want to be there, you think that like there's other ways to learn. You're reading books, and you're reading books that tell you things against the schooling system, and it's written by a former, you know, principal or former whatever, you know what I mean? And they know their stuff, and then you're like, you start reading, you're like, well, wait a minute, why are we doing this? And you start questioning things. So school's over. I need to get a job. This whole time I've been working in DC and like friend's place and all these things, but I need to get a real job. And somehow I end up working for Fairfax County Public Schools. So I sign up, and I'm just like a little admin clerk, helper. You know, I'm a runner. I'm doing all these things here, and then because of my ability, I'm native. You know, I can speak fluent in both languages easily, And I started translating papers. All of a sudden, they're like, "Can you do this and that?" Well, you need a new position, and now I'm this. And so I was with Fairfax County Schools for 19 years, right? And I did everything from admin clerk to driver's ed. I didn't teach the classes, but I would give kids their provisional licenses. And this was funny because I'm just like, how am I? This is weird, you know, I'm like 20 years old, 22, handing a 16-year-old a license. I thought it was really funny, but it was really cool. And then I got a good amount of experience because of that. I think one of the things is because I ended up moving to so many different positions, I never felt like I was staying in one place, even though I was with Fairfax County Schools. It was different offices and doing different things. And I always felt like I was giving back, you know, helping the community. And then I finally started working for adult ed with community services. And that one was great because there's a lot of Spanish people that need their GED or they're working night school. So I'm able to help them register for all these things. And so I'm seeing their side now, not from the side that I saw it, and because for me it was very easy. I learned English very easy. I adapted very easily. I'm very thankful for that. But I saw the struggle that they were having. I saw the struggle that my brother had, you know. And so I was able to relate those back and forth. And it made me feel like I was really helping people out by providing the right information, by helping them translate, or just helping them read certain things that are in English, right? Translating those papers, which later on ended up being turned into Spanish, and now you have access to like every language in Fairfax County Schools. So I was able to be a part of the Spanish side of that. I think that was really interesting. Yeah. So the last position I had, I was with Early Head Start and Family Services. This was, again, very fulfilling. It was great. I'm helping out these kids and families first starting, and it's mainly immigrants because everybody else already knows what to do. And so Early Head Start was, you know, the kids that didn't have the funding or the parents that didn't understand all this stuff. So I got to see where the struggles were with that as well. And the last position, it was like I'm doing all the paperwork, all the medical stuff. That was all great. And then I got asked to cover for a gentleman who was the principal of Early Head Start School. And it was only like 4 or 5 classes, very small school. But he wasn't showing up, and they were wondering why. And it turns out that, unfortunately, his wife had gotten cancer. So he would drive to the school and just sit in the car. And they couldn't have that. So they had me kind of just sit in for like 2 or 3 months. Summer comes by. I'm like, great, I get to go back to my work. And they said, no, you have to go back to that position. He's not going to come back. So I'm a principal at the school with these little kids. So I just show up at 9 a.m., give them all high fives. My day's taken care of because people like me that had my old job made all the positions. They told me what to do. I didn't have to do anything. I just showed up, said hi, show up for them leaving, bye, went home. So in between there, I'm learning different methods of training, physical training. I'm doing my own training, rock climbing, handstands, all that stuff, and like being an adrenaline junkie, all the junk that's going to make me, okay, let's do this stuff. And before I knew it, I started getting certified, and people wanted to be trained, and all of a sudden I'm doing handstands, and people are like, well, can I do that too? Sure. And then that evolved into a whole other thing. Yeah. Right?
So let me ask you this. This is really good. I love that you laid it all out for me. Going back to your experience in the education system, right? So you were able to figure out early kind of who you are. You're an adrenaline junkie. You realize that, the way that school operates doesn't really align with how you learn best.
Yes.
Right? So you're figuring all this stuff out as you go along. What would you say were the biggest challenges for you in the school system, right, coming from Chile? And then what are the biggest challenges, just kind of like touch on the challenges that you feel like a lot of immigrant families, especially Spanish-speaking immigrants, that they have to overcome coming into the American education system?
Yeah, so first of all, they have to learn to speak the language, learn to read it. I mean, at a very basic level. I saw my parents struggle with that. My mom instantly came and started doing classes with that, and you could see her level just rise up. My dad, because he was working more, he kind of got left behind a little bit, and that was hard to see. And so when we're all talking in English and they're not understanding us, it's like, we can get away with things that other people can't. And, if the school calls home or they send a paper home, I could tell my parents, it says this and that, because they may not know the language. By the 4th grade, and I probably shouldn't be telling people this, but by the 4th grade, I was already signing all of my own paperwork. I had a beautiful signature. I mean, I learned to write really well, took calligraphy classes, so I signed everything. My parents saw nothing. But at the same time, they didn't need to because I wasn't, screwing around and doing what wasn't important. I did just enough to do the stuff that I needed to once I realized, all right, just get your ticket and get out. And so I think that is the biggest struggle that I see is that language barrier. It doesn't matter where you are. If you go to any country, just learn that language at the most basic level so you can at least, learn to read a little bit, understand what's going on around you, and then you build from there.
Yeah.
There's nothing else like immersion. That's where I was. I didn't have to learn English. I just got immersed in it, dumped in. A month later, I'm speaking English. I'm a native speaker. But some people can adapt very well. And being younger, obviously you can adapt. But older, you don't adapt very well.
Yeah.
So with the biggest difference I saw with my brother and I, and he's 5 years older again, is that my mom made me practice Spanish every single day when I came home. So I would have to read a Bible verse, and then write it all in Spanish, and then draw what was going on, and talk about that every single day until I was in middle school. I hated it, but I'm so thankful because that's what kept my Spanish alive. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, my brother was struggling to learn English, so he wasn't doing that. He was doing the English side, and now his English is, his Spanish rather is not the best. He can get away with a lot of stuff, and I'm sure if I could put him in Chile for like a day, he's fine. But it's still, he has to adapt more than that.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I can just make a switch. And if you talk to me in Spanish, I'm speaking in Spanish or thinking in Spanish as well. And so it's like, the switch can be there. But I think that's the most important thing. And until people learn to do that, they're always going to struggle. It doesn't matter what the language is.
Yeah. And I think what's and I appreciate that. I think what's interesting about you is that you were tapped in to sort of who you are. Like, I think you were tapped into your spirit early, right? Like, you're like, it's kind of like this warrior spirit that you have where you're just like, you're challenging sort of the status quo, you're challenging norms, you're questioning things, right?
Questioning, yeah,
you're
absolutely.
questioning, right? You're trying to see, well, why? This doesn't make sense to me, right? So talk to us a little bit about how you sort of accepted who you are, like, that early. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like this happened like very early for you.
Yeah.
You came to this realization that, this isn't quite making sense. I'm trying to figure this out, but I'm also trusting that who I am is going to lead me where I need to be.
Right. Well, there's always that sense of trust, like you are where you're supposed to be. I think a lot of people, they don't feel like that because maybe they're just not confident in who they are and what they've done. Because of skateboarding, I've fallen a million times, and I've gotten up a million times, bloodied, bruised, bones showing, and I get up and do the trick again until I can land it. So it taught me perseverance, grit, and how to put up with things. So that was really, really important. So yeah, in class, okay, you got to put up with sitting here and learning this subject and studying and doing these things. But my question was like, what is this really for? How does this help in real life, right? And so how can I adapt that? So basic, 6th grade and under, yeah, all of that, you're going to use all of that. It's about socializing. It's about learning the basics. I get that. But then after that, it should be more, okay, you're like this, do that kind of stuff. I did just enough to get by, and I would see it within the teachers. And it's like, I'm not going to do this homework because I'm at home playing. I should be here doing this work. Why am I here for 8 hours if I have to take work home for 4 hours? It never made sense. Mm-hmm. And so speaking with the teachers and actually telling them this and questioning that, saying, no, this doesn't make sense. If I'm not paying attention in class and I do this here, can I turn it in? And they're like, well, if you're not paying attention, then you're not doing the work. Well, what if I already got what you said and I moved on and now I can do the homework because of that? That's a different story. Mm-hmm. So then I started telling more of the teachers that, and they would actually allow that. Mm-hmm. My wife now, my girlfriend growing up, super smart. I've known her pretty much my whole life. We've been together since we were 14. And because of the way she is, she's very book smart. She can remember stuff, and like the teachers love her. She's getting 4.0 and plus. Meanwhile, I'm like scraping a 2.5 because I just don't care. Yeah. It's just not what I wanted to do. And I knew that in order to do things that you want to do, you have to be good at that. If I want to be a runner, I have to go run. If I want to be a gymnast, I have to go do gymnastics. Reading a book is not going to help me in that aspect. But learning how to learn, I think, is very important. And I read a quote by Mark Twain that said, don't let education get in the way of your don't let schooling get in the way of your education. I love that. And I was like, I don't know, 9th grade, something like that. And when I read that, I was like, that is so true. So there's information out there that you can learn. So I was very much into martial arts and very disciplined mode. So I'm looking at these magazines, and there's a guy in there, Matt Fury, learn how to rip a phone book in half. This guy's teaching classes on how to do this. That's pretty cool. So that put just a little idea in my head that you can actually create a different type of a living. It doesn't have to be, accounting or a lawyer or a doctor. You can be something else. And it doesn't have to be something where you're working your life to do. It has to be fulfilling. And for me, because I went to school and then I'm like, I want to go skateboard, or I want to go do this, I want to go ride my bike. Like, it has to be that fulfilling side. And a lot of people don't have that. They don't have that outlet. And for some reason, because I was able to explore different things, and maybe because I'm a boy, my dad, my older brother was there with me too, I had more leniency to go out and do stuff. Now, if I did some of the stuff, the police would be called, right? Like, oh, where's the parent?
Yeah.
All these types of things. So it's hard now in comparison to raising a child, because I can't let my daughter, even at 10 years old, just go around alone. That's going to draw attention somehow. But with me, it didn't. And so I was able to explore a lot and see different sides of the world. And one of my best friends in high school and in elementary school as well, his dad had a business where he sold electronics. So think about Best Buy at a much smaller scale before there was Best Buy. So I saw different ways that people were making money. My dad wasn't, a lawyer. He's running a tow truck company, and he's doing pretty damn well. My mom is making dresses. She's doing really well. So it's like I see this entrepreneurial side. Mm-hmm. I'm like, wow, so you can get really good at one thing and just do that. Yeah. And then years and years later on, I read another quote by Arnold that said, don't apply to a position. Be so good the position's made for you. Mm-hmm. And I always kept that within me too. It's like, okay, I want to get better at everything that I do. So when I started training handstands, I sought out the best teachers in the world. I'm reading every manual, every little book that I can get my hands on, and taking courses online through people, flying to California, flying to Miami, all over these places, just so I can train with these people, so I can further develop my knowledge within this skill that I just like to do.
Yeah.
I just want to do it,
Yeah.
And so I ended up learning history about the circus, why the handstand was developed, and it's like it's interesting because I'm still learning all these different things, but it's the things I want to learn versus what's shoved down my throat.
Right. Now this is good, Mauricio. So you're actually operating in this sphere that I love to be in, and what you're really tapping into is one of the essentially the cheat codes to life, right? I think you're tapping into that, and I want us to explore that a little bit more, because what you're saying is you explored your interests, right? Like there's this stuff that you were required to do in school, but then you had these other interests that were way more meaningful to you, right? Yeah. Which kind of developed into passions, right? Mm-hmm. But it wasn't just that. I think the fuel behind it was your thirst for knowledge to get better, right? And then skateboarding, everything that you do, martial arts, it's about repetition, right? It's about the reps until you kind of perfect this, right? I think, what's the Bruce Lee quote? You fear the person who practices the same punch 1,000 times. Right? And I think that's what you were doing.
Yep.
Right? So talk to us about the secret sauce, because you really just covered it, and I don't want people to miss this.
Yeah.
Because you said you went to a lot of the experts, you did the research, but then you also physically went to get the information from the experts, right? But the information that you're getting is actually the 80-20 principle, right? It's like, what are the small things that I need to do that if I do so much of this, it's impossible for me to fail.
Right.
That's really what you're saying. But I want you to just walk us through that. Like you going and figuring out, because you're so curious, you're actually getting the right information, right? So if you're doing a trick on the skateboard, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this over and over again. Each time you do it, you're correcting something. You're like, okay, this didn't work the last time. I'm correcting. I'm iterating. Until you kind of know, okay, to do this trick, here's a framework for it. I got to do this, and this. I need 3 kicks. I need 1 push, whatever it is, and then boom, and then I go.
Yep.
So talk to us. Break that piece down, because I think you just blew this whole thing apart, right? Break down, get in the right information, so that when you apply the right information, it's impossible for you to fail.
Yeah. Well, to go further into that, I think a lot of people do things and they try something until they get it right.
Mm-hmm.
And my idea is do something till you can't get it wrong. And so I will practice more than you will. I've done more than you will. I just will outwork people because I want to put in the reps. And I find it similar, I've learned how to sell things, and because of growing business, all that kind of stuff, you're going to get a lot of no's in life, right? So you got to get them out of the way. So that's getting your reps in. The more reps in, the more no's get out of the way, and then the more yeses you start to hit. And let's take, for example, hitting a handstand, right? So I'm kicking up, and every time I go, I'm sloppy, and I come down, I'm like, okay, that doesn't count. I only start counting when I'm in the position that I want to be in, and then I take it one step further, and I'm like, okay, I want to hit 10 out of 10. And so maybe one day I hit 7 out of 10, another day 3 out of 10. But then once I build a consistency of 10 out of 10, then I go 20 out of 20, 50 out of 50. There were 2 days where I've done, just in one day, 1,000 handstands. And I just wanted to see, can I do this, right? So number one, to prove to my students, I've done more handstands that you've tried in one day, right? So step it up. It's about volume, but also the right type of volume, right? And proper work, technique. And so the technique is what trumps everything. If I work towards technique and I'm technically sound, then I can move on to the next thing, and that's what makes skill learning so easy. Then you got to go from the ground up, and like with anything, it's all about the techniques, and the small things matter, the details matter. It's those things people aren't paying attention to, the foot position when you land and slightly off. You may not be paying attention to that, but there's something going on within that. It might be like a pelvis issue. Who knows? But you have to pay attention to all of the basics before you can move on. And I find that a lot of people find plateaus, whether it's in learning or in physical sports. They hit a plateau because they didn't do some sort of basic well enough. It wasn't locked in. It wasn't 100%. Every time I do this, it's solid. And I think that's where a lot of people need to do. I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And there's this man named Rickson Gracie, one of the Gracies, one of the greats. And if you've ever done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know that with the gi, there's a million moves. Literally, it's like playing chess. It's endless. But he's one of the greatest in the world, and he's got maybe 4 or 5 moves. That's it. And he will tell you what he's going to get you with. I mean, how good do you have to be to say, I'm going to get you in an arm bar, and do it to amazing black belts around the world? And it's because they're trying all those different things, and then it goes down to the Bruce Lee thing. He practices those 5 things over and over and over. So all the other stuff is just like, this doesn't matter. This is the basic. Do this. You will be unbeatable. And so I learned a lot from Bruce Lee growing up as well. And I think having mentors in your life is so, so important. I've never met Bruce Lee. I've never met Matt Fury. I've met a lot of good mentors, but they were still mentors. I read a ton of books. And every time that I read a book, that's a new mentor. And I can read another book, and I can pick their brain. And the beauty about now and going to those trainings is that I can go to the source. I don't have to go to school and learn it from a person that learned it from a book. I'm going to the source, the person that actually did the studies, that's doing the work, and now I'm learning directly from them. So that lineage, I think, is a lot. And I think within the physical space, like physical movement space, there's a lot of, look at me, I'm self-taught. And nobody's ever self-taught. If you saw somebody jump, okay, that wasn't self-taught. Oh, we can jump. We do that, right? So I love to play on the lineage of people because there's so much knowledge from the past that we can just tap into. And now I have their knowledge, and I can pass that forward. And I think as far as like the handstand world, that's, for me, that's where it went. That's a whole other side of teaching. But when my teacher asked me to start teaching, I was just like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And so when I made the switch from going to the school system into like the fitness modality, that was really interesting too, because I felt like I was, fulfilling, I was being fulfilled. I was helping people do all these things. And then the last position I wasn't. So by training people individually, I'm helping people one-on-one get better, eat better. And that's changing their life, changing their family's life, their kids' life, and so forth. So I'm able to make a bigger difference, I feel like now, with what I do individually, even though I still want to teach more people. And I'm still teaching, which is wild.
I love that. So here's the thing. Talk to us real quick about the feedback portion, right? So you talked about getting the knowledge and like seeking the knowledge, right? Getting the mentors, right? We talk about, having a good peer group. You talked about your best friend, Tam. You talk about mentors, reading books, going to places, coaches. But talk to us about the feedback part, right? Because you said if you're doing a handstand, you need to make this adjustment based on your health, on your pelvis, based on where you land.
Right.
What's the best way to get that feedback? Because I know the reps are, you can rep it out, but you can also rep it out with the wrong information.
Oh yeah.
Right? And
100%.
you can sort of like master really bad habits.
Right.
So talk to us about like what you did to gain sort of like the frequent expert feedback to make the correction so you could iterate properly and get to that level of mastery that you wanted.
Sure. So before anything, you have to do your research, and you have to train with a lot of people. So we'll go into the handstands because I just love that. And there's many, many handstand coaches that I've had. I've trained with some amazing artists, amazing coaches, and some people that have never even done a handstand, right? But you have to learn what to do and what not to do. And the things that you're good at, you kind of want to double down on that, get better at that, but also trying to fix the other issues that are going on. With something like handstand, it's an ever-evolving thing, and the feedback is always changing. If my hand is on a hard surface, it's different from a soft surface, from the rocks, anything like that. So the feedback within that is like you have to be very aware within your body and where you are. So if you're not aware of where I am in space, right? If you're always walking into a wall, then handstands probably is not the thing for you. You probably have to work some vestibular, some visual, ocular sort of stuff. Yeah. And so the more that I learn about human biomechanics and the brain, and I can see different things that people need. And so for somebody that comes in and their eyes are a little jittery right here, okay, let's just do some neural stuff and fix that first. And then I see somebody that has bad biomechanics are here, right? Let's fix that before we can get into any handstands or anything like that. So you have to base it individually on each person. And in order for growth, like you said, you have to have that technique there. You have to have the right type of practice, but you have to have somebody also teach you that practice. And none of us were born with like, okay, I saw that person jump, but how did he jump? Like, do I do 10 of those, 20? I don't know how we do this stuff, right? So now I can ask that person because he already is jumping and ask him for his knowledge. And he's like, oh yeah, I do this 20 times. Cool, well, I'm gonna do that 20 times. And then as I do that, I get better and I explore more. And then I realize that guy's a better jumper than this guy. Let me learn from them. And so you keep building and building and building until you find the person that you really want to learn from. And there may be many, there may be one, there may be none. I mean, you have to become that person. And maybe because I've learned from 30 people, I can become that one that I'm looking for. So honestly, like from a coach's perspective, I wish I had me as a coach. I wish I could spot me and do all these things because of everything that I've put my like heart and soul into learning this stuff. Like when you get asked to teach is different than when you try to teach. It's like, hey, you're really good at this. You should probably teach. Like, oh, I never thought about that. And then it just kind of falls on your lap, right? Because you did all the prep work. Your basics are sound. And you're continuing to do all of the work. So the handstand is one of those things that changes every time. And I'm recalibrating from one handstand to another. Wish I could say one day I feel like a rock star and I stay that way. I mean, it's one handstand I feel like a rock. Another one I feel like a rock star. So it always changes, and because of that I think life is also allowed to adapt that way. And you have to change with those adaptations. Like something changes, okay, we go this way, we pivot. And fortunately and unfortunately, I've had some business situations that that weren't the greatest, like business partners and different things. Don't want to get into that, but it's like it helped me refine and redefine my values and what I see as important. And so if I stick to my guns and I know what is important to me and I see, okay, these people are doing this stuff, then I know that I can help them out. I'm not out here to like try to get people's money and be like, hey, you're going to die if you don't do this type of stuff. I'm not that type of coach. And I'm always going to build people up too, because there's always people breaking, your whole life you're going to be broken down, beaten down, battered. And I'm not going to be one of those people to add to that. I'm going to let you know that you're pretty damn good at this and you can do this, right? And whatever skill it may be. A lot of people come to see me for handstands now. And then they realize, wow, actually you do so much more. I'll give you an example. I had a student come in, and we don't train handstands, but her body's, acts funny for most people's, right? So aches here, aches there. And so I try every modality to help you teach yourself to get yourself better. And if that doesn't work, then we have to find some outside source, massage, whatever. So I just did a little trick that I know is called counter strain on her leg. She was like, what did you just do? My leg feels amazing. I was like, well, see, those are those tricks. I have so many tools in my toolbox that you came in for handstands, but you can't get there because your body hurts. Let's fix that first. And so I was able to help her with that. And I think everybody needs a different mode. And that's why I love working individual. But it's also important to put your stuff out there and make sure everybody can have access to it.
Yeah, this is really cool, man. So here's the thing. Your mom actually is the one who kind of got you started
Big time.
in teaching, right?
Yeah.
And so there's your mom sort of like maybe she was trying to motivate you and get you going by saying, hey, I need you to help me.
Exactly.
Right? And then so in that situation, you jumped in and you're like, hey, I'm helping my mom. So it was never about you. It was always about you helping others, which is who you are at your core, right? Like at your core, you know, from the time that I've known you, and it's been a couple of years, like that's really who you are, right? But talk to us about the process of you sort of getting into your zone of genius, because I feel like that's where you are right now, right? So you're in your zone of genius, like you did all this work in the school system, but at the same time you always were still, you know, doing all this physical stuff, right? You're skateboarding, capoeira, you're doing martial arts, you're doing all this stuff that kind of prepared you to finally be in your zone of genius. So number one, what does that feel like knowing that you're sort of like living in your purpose, right? You're doing sort of what you feel like is your calling, right? Like you're, and part of that is serving. Is when I see you, I kind of see you as like a servant leader, right? Like you lead through serving, right? So what is that like for you in terms of your, when you look at, you know, from where you started helping your mom get in shape and, you know, you being called Panda when you were younger, and to where you are now, where people literally come to you and you're healing people, right? You're serving, you're healing, you're building their confidence, you're doing all that. What is that like getting up every day and knowing that I'm sort of doing what I was put on this planet to do?
Well, number one is a lot of soul searching. I don't necessarily meditate. I've tried all sorts of different meditations, you know, stop the flickering light from all this stuff. I can't do that. But what I can do is daydream. And so one of the first things that I do in the morning is that I just really focus on how I want my day to play out. And I envision it as best as I can. I do that before I go to sleep as well. I'm uber thankful for my life. I've had a couple near-death experiences where I feel like I've been given a second chance. And so when you have something, some catalyst, tell you, hey, you need to stop doing this stupid stuff and fix your life, it just puts things in perspective. And I know where to focus and where not to focus. And I know, the time that needs to be spent with certain things. And I think everybody deserves this special focus. So if you're talking to me, I'm going to focus on you. There's other things going on in the world, but they don't matter right now. And I want everybody to feel that way, especially my loved ones, my daughter, my wife, my family. I want them to be like, wow, like he's here. He's not looking at his phone. He's here. And I'm making it a choice, right? Because even as before I go in, let's say, my brother's house, I'll sit in the car for a second. I'm like, I envision, my nephew and my brother, his wife, and I'm going to give them all hugs. Everybody's happy. And then, boom, it happens. But if I'm going there expecting gloom and doom, that's going to happen. And so you have to plan your day. And from a very young age, I knew that you had to somehow plan some sort of a day where you're doing the things that you want to do. Like, I'll take, for example, somebody that is new to fitness. They've never worked out, and the doctor says, hey, you need to start doing something, right? So what do? They start running. They hate running, but they start running. Why are you doing that? Go do something you enjoy. I still skateboard. I surf. I paddleboard. I don't play tennis, but can I? Sure. But I'll do it for fun. I love bike riding. Do I do it for exercise? No, I do it for fun. I'm with my daughter, with my family, doing fun things, riding in beautiful places, but I'm not out there just huffing and puffing, right? So if you find an outlet where you're doing things physically and you're with people that you love and you get them to do physical things, now you're enjoying a whole other aspect of life. I don't have to be indoors just to be on one-on-one. We could have been doing this interview while walking. That would have been amazing as well, right? It's gorgeous outside. So another interview in the future, right? And so I think placing yourself where you need to be and want to be is very, very important. If I know that a certain friend or family member is a headache, maybe don't see that friend for a little bit, right? And make those changes where, like, okay, if I want to be happy, choose to be happy. Choose to see the good in everything. There's a silver lining in everything. And there's a thing that I call the hindsight window. How long does it take for something seemingly bad to become something good? Broke my arm when I was 13. I wasn't supposed to do handstands. Guess what I do now, right? Because the doctor was like, no, you're going to be better than everybody else in this. So that was one of those pivotal moments that it took me a few years to realize, actually, this was a blessing in disguise. Now I know how to work my forearm more than most people, elbow, all these different things. And so I gained all this knowledge by working with him, strengthening myself, and that built on top of everything. I think that is so important. Building your day is so important. Just like if you go to work and you have your outline, you have to do all this stuff, you go to school, this is your curriculum, do that with your life. What do you want out of life? You want nothing? Don't write anything down, right? You want a beautiful house, kids, the car, all that kind of stuff, write it down. And make sure that you have some sort of goal, some guide to be like, I need to go in this direction. And then you'll know because, man, I made it right, but I can still pivot and I can always come back to it, right? So the 80-20 rule, I may screw around a little bit, 20%, I got off track. Doesn't matter, get back on track. And then there's a way where you can actually flip that, right? So you do 20% of the most important things and the 80% falls on your lap because you took care of the necessary things, right? Take for instance, okay, I have a plumbing issue at home and I know that I can probably do this. And it might take me 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. If I mess up, it's going to take me 4 or 5 hours. I could pay somebody for the 30 minutes of work that they're doing and do something that I think is productive to earn more money to pay that instead of taking my hour and losing money and having to work on that and then get frustrated. And so you have to set your priorities right. I know that, okay, that needs to get done, but that's not, and although I can do it, that's not my job. I have other things that I need to take care of. So take care of the big blocks and the small blocks just kind of Tetris themselves in.
Yeah, no, I love that. So talk to us, again, you mentioned Bruce Lee. So the
Yes.
whole, be like water. It sounds like you've taken that on.
To heart, for sure.
Yeah, and you've done that. So let's, we talked about the personal, we talked about the professional. Talk about how these experiences have shaped you as a parent, right? And
Okay.
and I want you to, I'm going to put it in this situation. Because one of the things that you talk about is just sort of meeting people where they are
Mm-hmm.
and sort of celebrating the things that they're interested in, right? So if
Exactly.
you'd like to do this, let's focus on this.
Yep.
So within that context, and you also said you wish that you were the teacher or the trainer that you had,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So talk about, like, as a parent, you know what I mean, with both of those things. Like, how do you parent based on your experiences and also knowing that, hey, I've evolved into the trainer that I wish I had, but that may not necessarily be the trainer that someone else needs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely
so
right.
talk about that.
Absolutely right. So when my daughter was born, I was still with Fairfax County Schools,
Mhm.
and thankfully they had a really good, leave policy where I had 6 months of paid leave. So that's pretty amazing. So I took those 6 months to just make sure that I was with my daughter every day, feeding her, doing all the necessary things, and just being a part of her. Just being in that around them is very, very important as they're growing up, especially the first 3 years, I think. First 7 years are super important, and then after that you can back off a little bit. But wanting to be there is number one, and then number two is making sure that she has everything that is important to her. So I had to make sure that I still had working, I'm still making money, making sure that I can provide a little bit, and then you take the role of, okay, well, I want her to do gymnastics. Awesome. I think that's a great route for her to go to. Most young girls love gymnastics. Turns out she didn't like it. But my thought was, okay, I know how gymnastics works. If I go and drop her off, I'm not going to be allowed to be in that room and watch what's going on. So anything could be happening behind doors. I have no idea. And with all the stuff with gymnastics that's been going on, now we know. Mm-hmm. I used to see that stuff because it was just not, parents aren't allowed. They're out here. And then, unfortunately, women are eating bad, they're throwing up, all sorts of different things. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to get US gymnastics certified. So I went online, did all the research, took all the training, and now I'm a level 10 US gymnastics teacher, right? And so, okay, she didn't like gymnastics. Fantastic. What else do you want to do, right? So we try ice skating. She likes it a little bit. Turns out she loves singing. She loves musical instruments. She's a freaking musical genius. She's writing her own music, last year we went to Puerto Rico, and she brought her little recorder because she was like, I don't want to bring the violin, and she's writing her own music. I'm like, I can't even read that. To me, that's a different language. That's amazing. So she was born with this skill that she can sing well. She hits all these notes, and she loves music. So, okay, let's double down on this. So this year she's in flute, and we get her to practice. And my thing with practice is, if you want to do it for as long as you want to. But give me 15 minutes. And then if you hate it, don't do it again. But after 15 minutes, you'll pretty much realize, okay, let's do this again. And then 25 minutes, and then 30 minutes, and then practice gets longer and longer. And before you know it, they love to do the stuff. So you have to look at the people and meet them where they're at, of course. You also have to question everything. That's what Bruce Lee taught me. It's like, okay, why won't they let kids in this class? Oh, because they are kind of mean, because they are yelling at them. So it's like I need to have access to not let that happen. So that's why I got certified, you know? And so that leads into different things. But now she is going into 5th grade. And thankfully we got into a really good STEM school. And it's all arts, science, and it's just a really good school. Had it been a regular elementary school, I think I probably would have put her in I don't know, Montessori or some other type of schooling, maybe even homeschool. And there's a lot of people that do that. And there's a lot of really good homeschooling options right now, right? But the social aspect is so important, how to be around your peers. So anything that she wants to do, she wants to go swim, I take the time, and like I said, being there with her, and I go swim, we go ice skate, we do music, and all the things that I think that she wants to do, and like I help her find more of it. Yeah. So as a parent, I feel like it's not my job to push my agenda on my kid, but it is my job to find what they want to do, and now maybe I can help them out and push them and get the right coaches for them. I can sing a little bit, I can hold a tune, I can play the bongos, but I can't read the music, so how am I going to teach her anything? I can't. So now I have to get the best coach that I can find musically for her. Right? And I think that that's important, because that's a cheat. That's your shortcut. That's what teachers are supposed to be. But because of our school systems, their hands are tied. Somebody like me was telling them what to teach throughout the whole year, so they're looking at a curriculum. I can't teach the way that I want to teach. They get jaded. They don't like their job. Here we are, bitter teacher. And so you can't let that affect it. You know what I mean? So you find the good teachers, you find the coaches, and like I said, we have direct links to the person that wrote the book, that discovered that cell, you know what I mean? I can talk to them, and that's the beauty of it now, that I can get direct knowledge. And I bring her along with all of these things. When she was younger, I would read to her, and not these cutesy little books. I'm reading the books I'm reading. By the time she was 3, she was reading to me in bed. Right? So it's like I'm following along, and she's just doing. So a lot of this is followed by example. Right? And she knows that if I'm there, she can ask a question, she feels safe, she feels secure, and she knows that she can fail, because it's not failure, she's going to learn from it. And I think that that's the most important thing, is like, you're never failing unless you stop. If you stop, then you truly failed. But if you continue doing it and you overcame it, then you're going to persevere. That's grit, right? That's like practicing that kick 1,000 times, a punch 1,000,000 times.
It's also not letting school get in the way of your education. Really.
Yeah, you can't let them get in the way of your education. You're going to have some amazing teachers. You're going to have some terrible teachers growing up. And unfortunately, you're going to have both. And I've had both. My daughter's been very fortunate. She's had amazing teachers, but it's because she's amazing. There's other kids in her class that don't think her teacher was great, but that teacher was great. But it's because of her outlook on it, right? And she wants to learn certain things, so she does. And certain things she doesn't want to do, she's not going to pay that much attention to her, and I will totally allow it, right? Because there's certain things that we're just more inclined for. I would love for her to do handstands every single day, and when she wants to train with me, let's have some fun. But that's not her thing, so I'm not going to push her on it.
No, I love that. So again, I like the whole idea of you sort of pursuing the knowledge based on the things that you're interested in. And your daughter actually has that, right? You're able to pass that on to her. But talk to us about sort of your passion. Like right now, where you are as you've evolved, right? Coming to America at 5, going through everything you went through, the challenges in the education system, to now sort of operating in your zone of genius, right? So talk to us about, what is your calling? Like, what do you feel like you are here to do? Because I know you have a lot of knowledge, you have a lot of tools. Like anything that we ask about with the human body, you're able to show us, you could do this, you could do that. So So what are you into?
I've had a lot of injuries. I've had 3 knee surgeries, broken arm, broken collarbone, broken shoulder, dislocated left ankle twice, torn ligaments on the right. Pretty much all the injuries you can imagine, right? Spine, I have scoliosis. If I didn't move the way that I didn't do the things that I do, I'd probably be in a wheelchair. And so movement is the most important thing, aside from you have to have like your lowest hanging fruit covered, right? So you have to have good thoughts. Good thoughts are so important. If I wake up with negative thoughts, the rest of the day is going to be negative. Happy thoughts, happy everything else, right? And so after that, you have to have good air. So learning how to breathe properly, hugely important. I see people struggling with breath all the time. They may be stuck here or stuck here. And so you got to break them out of that. Then we have our water, really good water. Then we have our food. Then we have rest. And then we have movement. So without those right there, all those 7 things, you're going to be failing somewhere. And that's the lowest hanging fruit. So if you can get all of that to go, the rest of it just falls, on top or on top of itself and just lines up. But you have to be able to cover all of the basics again, right? And so it's very, very important that without that, like you don't have a guideline, right? If I'm not eating good food and I'm not recovering, working out is going to work against me. If I'm not able to breathe properly, I'm not going to be able to, work out again. I may not be recovering properly. And so having the right order and the right things is really, really important. And so just like learning, like I'm not going to be able to learn if my brain is not getting any oxygen. If I'm always stuck in this gloom mode, I can't breathe. And my brain can take up to 70% of my oxygen, and if I'm already in the negative, my brain is starving. So movement is absolutely important for humans just in general. And if you don't start doing that, you're not going to expand. Our skin, our fascia, everything is meant to move. We have a certain blueprint, right? Again, the technique. If you want to learn how to sing, there's a technique. If you want to learn how to dive, there's a technique. Everything has a technique. And your blueprint to your body is what I call your CARs, controlled articular rotations. Just rotate every single joint within the body. And that's your everyday thing. And then that joint becomes that joint, and your elbow's an elbow, shoulder's a shoulder, and then you don't feel pain after 3 years because you're actually moving the way they're supposed to move, right? And when I don't move, now with my body, it's like I'm creating cells, or good cells or bad cells, whether I think of it or not. But if I'm not moving, I'm not giving them a blueprint of how to move, and then they can grow this way or that way, and you get scar tissue and all these different things. So making sure that is all taken care of is huge.
Yeah, I love that. So you would say, if you had to say one thing, if you could only say one thing, if you could only give people one piece of support, we won't even call it advice, would you say it's about what you just said about the movement of the joints?
Yeah.
Like do that every day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could do that every day, it's going to take care of like the most basic. That's your lowest hanging fruit, right? Most people didn't know that their knee rotates, right? And if you can just do that and add some movement to it, then you're going to feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Every cell in our body regenerates except for a couple in our brain and our heart. And that's the reason that we die. But if your body is regenerating cells, that means 10 years ago, my bones literally they're not a part of me, right? So even my bones became a new portion of me. And now anything that I was doing 10 years ago, whatever I was doing, I got really good at because that's all I was doing. So if I do squats all day for 10 years, I'm going to be amazing at squats. If I jump all day for 10 years, I'm going to be meant to jump. I'm going to be made for that. Form follows function. So if you want to move a certain way, move that way, and then you will be able to.
So what's the worst thing that you can do? Would it be just not doing anything?
Not doing anything, just being sedentary. Because number one, your mind is free to run wild, and you're just going to jump to conclusions. Now I'm thinking about tomorrow, and I'm anticipating tomorrow, or I'm thinking about the past, and oh man, why did I say that in the elevator? You're living the past, and you can't live in the past. You're not going to be able to change who you are and your future if you keep living in the past and putting yourself in that energy. Also, if I'm also anticipating the future, I'm always going to be anxious. So I can't anticipate what's going to happen tomorrow because tomorrow never comes, right? It's only today. This is all we have. So if I can focus on, again, being here, being present, then I can focus on what needs to be done right now.
Now, this is a masterclass, Mauricio. I love this. I love this. So before we wrap up, is there anything that you prepared for that I didn't ask you, that you're like, if you ask me this, I'm gonna knock it out the park?
No. nothing specific. It's just, I don't know, you have to enjoy what you do.
Yeah.
Love what you do. Surround yourself with people that you enjoy being around.
Yeah.
And you're just going to be much happier.
Yeah.
Say no when it's a no.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're wishy-washy, say no, right? If it's not a hell yes, like, it's a no.
Yeah.
Right? And there's also, I think, a lot of times within school system, within just socializing, in general life, there's a lot of BS rules. Rules, right?
Yeah.
They're bogus rules. Like, who made this up, and why does this matter?
Yeah.
So break the rules.
Yeah.
Right? Test it out a little bit. If there's no repercussions, then that's probably not a rule. Right? It's made up by some person that doesn't matter. Right? And there's always somebody that's also going to give you, actually almost everybody will give you no. Right? You go and apply for a job, the secretary says no, the hiring agent says no. Go to the boss. They're the only one that can give you a yes. Don't accept a no from a person that can't give you a yes. So bypass that person and be so damn good at what you do that you get offers for just being you.
Yeah. And what I love about you, man, is you live what you say. You know what I mean?
Thank
you really embody that. And I appreciate that. I love spending time with you because I always leave feeling like, oh, man, I'm ready to take on the world.
I appreciate that.
So I want to thank you for taking time out, man, to share your story, share your philosophy. And I hope people, you know, will tap in with you and really see what you're about. Because when it comes to this wellness and this health thing, you're definitely, you know, one of the masters at this. So I appreciate you taking time out to do this with us.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Cool beans.
Heck yeah.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Immigrant Education Collaborative Podcast. We'll see you next time. Thank you for checking out this latest episode of the Immigrant Education Collaborative Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Please shoot us a comment. Let us know what your favorite part is. Shoot us some suggestions, what you'd like to see going forward. And thanks again for your support. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for liking. Thanks for your engagement. We appreciate it.